So thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you everybody for being here. So today, today I'll be looking at genome quality. So just to give everybody a bit of context as well. So I've been doing this live coding. It's not really live coding. It's actually a live science project for a while, where I've been streaming me trying to develop a particular tool. So trying to develop a concept and experimenting with things. And this has been, I've called it extremely open science. And this has been going on for several months now. I posted on YouTube, and actually now this is also going to be on YouTube. But there it's an ongoing project. And so, if you join now, you're joining midstream. So, you're happy. I'm always happy when people do join. There's a mailing list. I'll post that as well. But today, in the next few weeks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a sort of a self-contained sub-project. So I'm just going to look at some data that we have. This is real data. So one of the principles here is also that I really don't prepare too much, so that when I'm doing this live, I'll be sort of looking up stuff and sort of going back and forth and making mistakes. I think the ways this is different from a tutorial. So when we do a tutorial, everything is prepared and we know what we're going to get. Right? That's the right. And we have data, sometimes not even real data. So sometimes just toy data. We know it's going to run well. We know exactly what commands we will use. So that's not what we do when we do live coding. So live coding really, I kind of have an idea of what I want to do, but I'll be looking up stuff as much as needed, and I don't know exactly how things will go and how things will, it will be more like real life. Right? So I'm going to post this in the chat as well now, so I'm going to use some real data where we have. I posted. I'm just shared for now on Dropbox. Eventually, this will be publicly available. But if anyone wants to follow along there, you follow the link and you will see. I'm going to also start sharing my screen. Just 2 seconds. So if you want to follow along, so you will see these are the files, right? And so SHD1, so that actually stands for Shanghai Dogs 1, just because it was and then underscore, and then it's an ID. And so this is real data. This is from a project from Ana Cusco's been working on, and you can see the numbers, they go up by 20. So this is actually 5% of the data. I took every 20th mag, and now I will be looking at them over the next 1 hour, but potentially or potentially running CheckM2 today, looking some basic tools, and then next week we might then look at the outputs of these tools and try to see what we get. So I'm gonna start. So I'm assuming everybody can hear me and everybody can see my screen. If not, I also have the. Let's see if I open the chat. Yeah. So if not, please feel free to just ask on the chat, right? So I'm gonna start, and I'm going to create a directory. Actually, I didn't think of a name. Okay, that's just mags_QC. Let's just start very. So no prizes for creativity here, but so mags_QC, and then so this part. So this is the data. So this is the data that you can also all download. Sorry, it's a little it's a winter. Okay, so this is, let's just have a quick look at what it looks like. Okay. So it's a FASTA file. so in this case, I can just give you a bit more of the background of this. These are pet dogs from Shanghai, and then we built these mags using, or I should say, Anna built these mags using Oxford Nanopore and Illumina data. So and then using, and you can see using SemiBin. This was SemiBin 2 to do the bins, right? Okay, so we got these, and if you pay attention, you can see. If you pay attention, you can see the numbers stop at 2,660. So we got about 2,700 mags, and we want to figure out, how good are they, right? Right, so the first thing I want to do is I'm gonna run checkm on them, but before all of that, I am going to make this into a Git repository. I will use Git for everything. So we just started their empty Git repository, and now I want to install the software. So I'm going to use Pixie, because I also started using Pixie for everything. And I think it's Pixie init. All right. And Pixie, I think it's like this, add bioconda. So to add checkm2. Right. I think this is how it works. If it's no, checkm2, no. So the way Pixie works is it creates this file pixie.2ml, and it's like this. And so unlike Conda, for example, which maybe some people are familiar with, so in Conda uses this interface where imperatively you add packages to it, and then so if you want to recreate an environment, basically you have to add the same packages. Oh, there it is. With Pixie, it creates these files, and so the files. So it creates these two files, pixie.2ml and pixie.lock, and these two files together, they determine your environment. So I'm gonna add them to Git. Okay, and now I'm also, since we're doing everything from scratch today, I'm gonna go to GitHub, create a repository, maxqc, and I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna also put this in the chat. Okay. Right. So now, if you or anybody, checks out this environment, they have these two files, and if you run Pixie shell, you will get exactly the set of files, exactly the set of everything that I have. So you'll have checkm2 on your, there it is. So this will be slightly different, obviously, on your environment if you run it, but this will be exactly the same version. Exactly the same version of checkm2, exactly the same version of everything, exactly the same version of Python, all of the dependencies. Right, so okay, I don't know why this is slow. I think there's okay, 1.1.0. Okay, all right, so all right, now I think it's something like this. Sorry, does this work? Okay. Okay. Okay, we need to download the database, right? This is actually what we need to do. So we need to download the database. So let's do but let's so I want to download it here. Does this work? Okay. Directory. Okay, so I don't. So actually, I think I've solved this problem before. I just okay. So what I wanted was this one. Or databases. Okay, so right now what I'm doing is I'm sort of just running stuff on the command line, but this is actually not just to test. But what I will. But generally, I don't want to. This is not what I want to have in the end. In the end, I want to do it properly. When properly means what I want to have is have code that does this, so that I don't have the to do these things by myself, or this. I don't like having, you know, these hidden commands. So one way could be to, so there's basically two ways. One way I could have, I could just have this as a bash script. In practice, I actually like to actually use Python for this. Sorry, I misspelled check M too. Check M, there's an N there. So whatever. So and I'm actually yeah, so I'm by the way, I'm running with GitHub Copilot, so that's the autocomplete that you see there. Check run. So actually, yes, I think I want something like this, right? It will download. I think this is what I want. And then, okay, actually, I'm going to use this other library that I have to sort of coordinate this a little bit. Gonna exit. So here I exited from the Pixie shell. Now I'm going to add Jug to the environment. And now I go back to the shell. So this is, I mean, I don't know if people are familiar with Pixie. I think but maybe more people are familiar with Conda. So I really see Pixie as sort of Conda done properly, or maybe that sounds, but just a more modern version of Conda. I mean, Conda is now, 10, 15 years old, and so the way we did things back then was a huge advance over what was there before. But nowadays we have even better ways of doing things. And so Pixie is just a more modern version. And so you could see, so when I did there Pixie add Jug, so what it did, it added this in the pixie.2ml file. So yeah, please. I'll demonstrate in maybe I'll demonstrate that in like a couple of minutes. Maybe like in a couple of minutes I'll check in again with you. So the big difference between Conda and Pixie is that when you add a package, it adds it to the file, and then you run Pixie shell, and now it just reads the file. And but what that means is that if you go back to the previous version, you completely undo everything, right? There's no, whereas with the Conda sort of imperative interface where you add packages and add more, here everything is just contained in these two files. And especially if you then use something like Git to manage versions, you can add things to an environment, and then go back to the previous version of the environment, give your environment to someone else, or in this case, I can just give my environment to you. So if I And if you look at the log file, which normally you never look at the log file is for, you can see that there's specific versions, like these sort of whatever weird numbers, of the exact files that, right? So like this is the exact, hashes of this. So if you, okay, I shouldn't. So now if you or anybody else goes to the GitHub version and gets the newer version of the log file, of the log.2ml file, so these two files together, you'll get exactly what I have on my computer. So Pixie shell, get that. Sorry, I think I now did it twice. Sorry, I think I shouldn't have done that. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So if I go, I think I sort of messed that up because I was already inside the Pixie shell, and now I go Pixie shell again. Okay. Right, so now I have Jug in my, so to answer the question what it does. Okay, so now I have Jug in my environment, and run checkm2. So what Jug does is, and this is, I'll also, I guess I can post the, I'll also post this in the chat. Okay. So what Jug does is it lets me turn these sort of this Python script, and just by adding a little bit of, and now so instead of just being quote unquote normal Python, it now has, I can now run it using Jug, where I can just, so it now defines basically a set of tasks and so the first task is this task, download checkm2 database. There's only one task defined, but I can see it's ready to run. It's not complete because it hasn't run, and it's not active because it's not running. And it's not waiting. So what I will want to do, and then later, so later I will want to do this. Right? I said protect. I'm trying to remember all. Yeah. Where's the database path, right? So later I'll want to run this. So oh, sorry, this was not the one. Okay. Yeah, this is what I'll want to run. Checkm to predict. output data. Correct. Output directory, that's fine there. So I need to tell it that the files we use are fna.jz. So we generally use this convention that fna.jz, so fna for nucleotide, and then the corresponding FAA for amino acid FASTA files. So we need to do that. So this is what we'll run. First we'll run the database download, and then we will run checkm2, and then we will have a big table, and then we will look at that table, and we'll look at that table to get a bit of. So our final goal here, which we will not get to today, is to have a table that has a row for each mag, and then has some statistics. Some of them will come from checkm2. Some of them will come from, we will also add a couple of other things. And then, but that probably will not get to that today. So if today we do this code that runs checkm2, and then next week we pick up from that. So let's just see. Okay, right. So this is. So we have this code. So it's going to download the database and then run checkm2 later. Let's just see if it runs. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not check run. It's not check run. It's what it's called. It's I forgot this. Right, so this Python sub process is how check call. Yes, check call. So Python sub process is how we can run things. So on the command line, right, we can then so process something. Unfortunately, if the standard run is if I just write some gibberish here. Oh, sorry, that's not actually true. No, that one, what I meant is for example, actually this is what I meant. So for example, I run make dir directory, and the first time it's going to work, right, and created the directory, and I can see it there it is. And then if I run it a second time, so the make dir command fails, but then from Python's point of view, I just get this completed process object with the return code equals 1. So, you cannot see my window. Does everybody? You can see this. Yeah, so I'm running things on the terminal here. So I looked up this because I had misspelled this. I had written check run instead of check call. And I just wanted to explain a little bit why I was using check call instead of the sort of the run command, which is, or the run function, which is, you know, maybe a little bit. Okay, I mean, since there seems to be one person that's affected, I'm going to assume that this might be okay for everybody else. If not, please. And I'll just go back to show. So the standard run command, or the run function, if it runs, in this case, runs make dir directory, and then the make dir fails. You can see that there's an error message printed here. But from Python's point of view, you just get this object with a return code equals 1, and you know you can, and it's sort of your responsibility to check, you know, return code. And so what I want is, but if I do check call, then I get inside Python I get an exception called process error, and so the error is much more, you know, it's much more visible. So I want to, the other, I mean, you can technically get exactly the same using check equals true. So it's a matter of aesthetical preference whether you prefer to use the specialized function called check call or run with the argument. But this is why I wanted to use check call. So let me just move it there. So check call, so that if there's any problem, this will fail. It'll fail. I mean, one of the things we really never want to have is some sort of silent failure. So we like our failures to be visible, even if in the moment it might feel a bit annoying to have an error. But the worst is when you have an error and you don't even know that you have an error. So let's see again. Good. Okay, I think now it's running. Yes. Okay. Okay, so this is going to take a few minutes. So I'm just going to let it run in the background. And I'm also being a little bit mindful of time. I'm going to add these things to Git and then push them to the public GitHub repository. And then maybe what we're going to do is, so this would be, so today we'll maybe do a little bit more here, but we won't actually run through all of these things. Actually, checkm2 would probably take a little bit while to run, but if the code is all there, then I will start it. We will end the stream, and then this will run, you know, for a little bit longer. But you know, I won't do any other analysis or any other code. It will just be sort of it's running for next week, so that we have the data there to analyze. But I will now just spend a little bit of time putting it on GitHub. So this git attributes and git ignore, this was actually created by Pixie. Yeah, and so git ignore are files that Git will ignore. So for example, there's a Pixie puts everything in this .pixie directory. But if I do git status, or which I have abbreviated as git st, then it doesn't show any information about that .pixie because Git is ignoring it. I am also going to add this, and I am going to actually add this one to the git ignore. So jug uses this .jug data directories to manage its own internal things, and we also don't want to have them as part of Git. So I'm going to add it to git ignore, and now Git no longer tells us that about it. So add. Okay. Okay, and since we're going to add a README file, yeah, well, actually with so not using folder. So let's start here, data download. I'm going to put everything there. So sorry, I need to actually find this again. So eventually we will make this will all be public, but requirements install Pixie. So you need to install Pixie. Okay, right, so this is what. Okay, oh, that's just, right, let's deal with this in a second. Oh, I see what, sorry. Okay, this was from the. All right, so what had happened is, so checkm doesn't like it. Well, that doesn't like it. So if you give it an output directory and it doesn't like it if it already exists because it doesn't want to override previous files. But we had done this interrupted version before, so that's what was failing. Okay, we should put some. Okay, let's do. So I'm just for adding. Okay, just to make sure everything's documented, so it's good to have an explicit open source license. So I'm just going to add. So I'm just going to add a little bit more documentation here. If okay, so I'm adding adding a bit of information here to the README file, so that everybody can follow along at home if they want to. Also if someone wasn't able to join today and wants to join next time, they can follow this at home. And because I am sharing also the Pixie log files, they will get exactly the same outputs and inputs. Sorry, the same. So if they have the same inputs, because I'm also sharing the data, everything will run and they will get exactly the same thing. Or maybe not. Okay, let's fix that in a second. And so again, I'm pushing this to GitHub. So this is everything's here. Now if you right, database path. Okay, I guess the database path is maybe it has to be. Maybe it has, yeah, maybe I just think I just did that wrong in terms of how to. Path. So instead of maybe it has to be the path including. Oh, can I put it into Dropbox? Yes. 2 seconds. Oh, sorry. I'll put it in Dropbox maybe offline I'll fix this. I'll fix this here. It's the. So does it really expect to have the. Maybe does it really expect to have. Okay. Okay. This is also sort of the big difference between doing a tutorial and doing live coding, is that in a tutorial I would have fixed this before, and then when I was actually showing it, what I would do is I would just copy and paste the commands that I already knew worked, and then when I'm doing live coding, I'm trying to remember from memory, and obviously, since I've run this many times, I think I have a huge advantage over someone really doing it for the first time. But nonetheless, I don't remember all of these details, so I remember that you need to give it the database path, but whether you give it the database path by giving it the exact file or or the directory within which the file is located. That's the type of thing where which I can't really remember. Okay, so this would run. It's probably not a good idea because I'm only using one thread for some reason. So probably, okay. All right, so we have a few minutes. I don't want to go. I'm gonna fix the bug here. And then okay, I think now it's all right. I think now it's going to run. It didn't complain about that. So yep. This is actually a pretty terrible idea for me to do live, because actually, so normally it would be fine, and if you're running it at home, it's fine that you run it with 8 threads. It's a pretty terrible idea, so I'm going to just stop it for now, because I have this I'm also using Zoom and all of this other stuff, and so that ends up overloading. I don't have enough threads, CPUs for all of this, so that will run offline. I will put it. I'm going to push this to GitHub, so everything's on GitHub. I will also put it into the Dropbox. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'll just reorganize the Dropbox folder so that I'll put everything there. So I'll put this one folder into Dropbox with everything. Everything include so the data that was already there, but then everything else I've done now. And then between now and next week, I will have run checkm2, which is basically just this process that I now stopped because I don't have enough CPUs to run both the checkm2 with 8 threads and Zoom. So I will just run this. It'll probably be done by lunchtime, and then next week we'll have these files, and we will then do a bit of Python to make sense of this. Maybe do a few visualizations, maybe adding a couple of other things. We'll continue from here, right? So we have, I want to finish before the end of the hour, but we have a couple of minutes if someone has any questions they want to put on the chat. I think the recording will be shared. Lawrence, you want to speak to that? Okay. All right. Otherwise, I mean, or do you mean that? So at the beginning, I said we had a mailing list for my research streams. Is that what you meant? So I should have actually posted the link to that. I'll put the link to that as well. I can add. I will add you personally. Oh, okay. Okay, great. Okay, otherwise, I mean, feel free to reach out. My email, if there's anything, I'll post you could probably find it, but I'll save you a Google by posting my email on the chat. And I will see you next week. I will put everything on Dropbox. Everything's on GitHub. So, I mean, thank you, everybody. I think it's... Bye.